Nintendo just announced a port of one of their greatest games of all time, and I'm here to show you all why this release is going to be a lot bigger than what they've initially shown, and how its new features relate to the recent Nintendo Online playtest program. So, a couple of weeks ago, Nintendo announced that they were looking for volunteers to take part in a mysterious and vast beta test program. But what was it for? Well, to join, you needed to be a member of the online Switch expansion pass, so immediately we can determine that this test is for an upcoming feature for Switch Online. Great, anything else? Well, yes actually. Despite Nintendo kindly requesting players don't talk about the upcoming tests, they kind of went ahead and did it anyway. Testers report that Nintendo had them play an online multiplayer game where you ran around as little critters to find blocks and resources in hopes of building up areas on a map. They described the experience as a cutesy Minecraft game with planetary exploration. That's all good and all, but what does all of this have to do with the recently announced Xenoblade game for Switch? Well, just stick with me here, I'll get to that.
I promise you're gonna love this.
Now, from what I've seen of this playtest, I don't believe Nintendo is anywhere near ready to release the game. We all know they can take years for them to retool their prototypes into a full experience. Think of Mario 128. Initially teased in an interview at E3 1996, it was finally shown as a tech demo in the year 2000, which eventually split off into 2001's Pikmin and 2007's Mario Galaxy. Or what about the HD Zelda tech demo in 2011, which was the entire fucking reason I even got a Wii U, by the way? It came out in 2017, when the next bloody console had come out. So what's going on here? Why is Nintendo testing out a demo so early in development on their servers? It's clearly not a product coming out anytime soon, so what are they specifically trying to achieve here? Well, I think they're hitting two birds with one stone. On one hand, they're getting valuable insight and feedback for a future IP, while also sneakily testing the online capabilities of an already existing game, and I'll show you. Looking through the screenshots of the playtest, I noticed a section describing the main goal behind the playtest, and what's described here ended up sounding eerily similar. So I'll start reading the description and let's see if you can recognize what's being said. In this game, the goal is to work with others to fully develop a massive, expansive planet by utilizing creativity and farmed resources. As you progress across the planet, you'll be discovering new lands, enemies, and resources that'll become essential to your journey. Throughout your adventure, players will be granted special tools known as beacons. These beacons emit a healing light that purifies and develops the land. The higher your beacon is placed, the wider its beacon zone becomes. Within your beacon zone, your best work can be done. Players will repeat the process until their current planetary block is considered fully developed. The dev core is a separate space from the planet you'll be developing. Think of it as a social hub together with other players. At the dev core, you can level up your character, get items for your journey, or commune with others, and more. Do you see what I'm painting here? Everything I've just described is directly one-to-one to the gameplay shown in Xenoblade Chronicles X. And I believe this online playtest has secretly been Nintendo's way of beta testing a brand new multiplayer expansion they're planning for the Switch port. But why now? Why did Nintendo decide to test the game's online functionality half a year before its upcoming release date? Because they've learned from their previous mistakes. Looking at examples such as Switch Online's initial launch, or Mario Maker 2's delayed multiplayer features, we can see that Nintendo wasn't shy of releasing products without too much care towards their online functionality. Nintendo Switch Online's paid service initially launched with no recognizable improvement to people's online experience, nor did it offer much with its NES catalog. People were understandably quite upset, and generally began to have a distaste toward Nintendo's online services. It was simply launched way too early, forcing players to begin paying for features they've always had for free. It was a PR mess for Nintendo. Same thing with Mario Maker 2. There was a big wave of hype when Nintendo announced that you could play online with friends, just for the feature to end up being delayed before launch. My friends at the time lost all their interest with the game and abandoned it shortly after, and I'm sure the same was felt for those watching, and I have a feeling that Nintendo is well aware of this. Just think about it. Nintendo's proven their development pipeline is leaps and bounds ahead of the competition, with them shadow dropping Metroid Prime Remastered, pulling Xenoblade 3's release date forward, and having Paper Mario be certified a year before release. So Nintendo seems to have a pretty sizable backlog of finished games, months to years before their release date, and Xenoblade X is no different here. I believe the main game has been finished for quite a while, but Monolith Soft aren't lazy when it comes to their IPs. Previous Xenoblade Switch releases have come alongside extra campaigns, with one game getting DLC and a full graphical overhaul. And while looking at the new Xenoblade X trailer, you can see they've expanded the story campaign, yet the visuals, for the most part, are mostly intact. But there's no way Monolith Soft are porting one of their most anticipated games to the Switch with just the story DLC. So what else have they been cooking? What is the "and more" teaser referring to on the game's website? It's referring to a fully overhauled multiplayer experience, giving old and new players a fresh experience with the game, while also justifying the game's now needing an online paid subscription, when it never used to. Again, looking back at the online playtest program, being suspiciously similar to Xenoblade X's gameplay loop, it seems like Monolith Soft and Nintendo are using the next 6 months before their release date to fine-tune and transform Xenoblade X into a fully online MMORPG. Which isn't even a stretch. Xenoblade X was already a full MMO-inspired experience, just not with simultaneous multiplayer. Now, yes, the original did have online gameplay, but not in the way you'd expect. You were able to randomly find NPCs across the overworld that took the appearance of characters from your friend list, also complete in-game missions to tally up points for online leaderboards, and could even load up tiny isolated maps cut off from the main game that would allow friends to play in co-op battles online, similar to the Terra Raid battles in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. But I believe they're expanding upon the first feature that I mentioned, but instead of being able to find NPCs that look like your friends, I think in the Switch version they'll actually be your friends, with the full open world and campaign being playable with other players at the same time. Monolith Soft themselves have said that X's overworld was so big that it ended up feeling lonely, and that they added all the multiplayer features to help alleviate that. So is it that far of a stretch to believe that they're wanting to push it further this time? To turn a mostly single-player MMO-inspired game into a fully multiplayer one? Considering what we've seen from the recent Nintendo playtests and the hint of more to come, I don't think it's a stretch at all. But what about you? Do you think I'm onto something here, or do you have other theories about the new content coming to the game? Let me know your thoughts below.